All right, everybody. Hello, everyone. I'm Beth Johnston. I'm the Chief of Community Engagement here at the FSHD Society. And I would just like to welcome you to today's FSHD University webinar. We're pleased that you're here today. That means that you're taking steps to becoming educated and empowered to be your own best advocate when it comes to living with FSHD. Today, we are so fortunate to have with us, straight from Hollywood, the creators of the movie Good Bad Things, screenwriter and actor Danny Kurtzman, and director Shane Stanger. Thank you guys for coming today. Their groundbreaking movie, which was just released this summer, has won numerous audience awards at film festivals, and we hope are going to find viewers everywhere around the planet. So without further ado, welcome Danny and Shane to our webinar today. And maybe if I could just start with a basic question, and kind of for the benefit of people who haven't seen the film yet, can one or both of you kind of give us the elevator pitch version of the movie?
There you go.
No, you go. It's all good.
Uh, yeah, it's just like we like to call it like a modern day love story. And when I say modern day love story, it's like a love story with a partner, with your best friend, with your career, and with yourself, and what that entails. And it just happens to be that the main character lives with a physical disability, and you just kind of watch him kind of grow and face the challenges I feel like not just the disabled community faces, but we all face in society today. And yeah, that's kind of the elevator pitch, right? Hook,
That was a big elevator. Yeah.
elevator, boom.
Yeah,
It
that
was a
is.
quick elevator ride.
Yeah. It's about, a man struggling with self-worth and just living his life, just, day to day, sort of experiencing the world in one way and I think hopefully people will resonate with the messages, but he has a unique experience that he's never had before, and it changes his whole perception of what his life could be.
Awesome. So with that, what was the genesis? How did you guys come together on this and come up with creating this movie from this perspective?
Shane, I had no plan in my life to be doing this thing, and so Shane did. This was in Shane's plans. Shane was going to the USC Start program, which is the film graduate school at USC, and was doing some of his senior theses. One was originally a short that he had to do for class, and Shane thought it would be interesting to do something with me at the time. And we came with a concept, shot that in January 2022. And it went well, I would have to say. I had no like idea what I was doing. And then also Shane got COVID during filming, so he had to do the whole thing directing via Zoom. So like literally I was in this bed right behind me and Shane was in the TV right in front of me, and he was trying to direct me as I was trying to act for the first time ever. But it went well. Shane felt that everyone kind of really was gravitating towards me and what I was doing on screen, and if it was interesting to a lot of his classmates. And so Shane, being impatient like he is, he's like, let's just make a feature. And so in the summer of 2022, Shane had a screenwriter writing a screenplay for us. We got it. It was ableist and not on tone to what Shane kind of wanted to do. And he pitched the idea for us to sit down together and write a screenplay in 2 months. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And so we sat down and I wrote the beats with him, which are like just the main points. Shane went off and wrote the script, and later we were on set for 9 weeks making Good Bad Things.
Wow. So Danny, was this your first screenplay?
This is my first time ever acting. Yeah, I was
Oh
not
my goodness.
doing this at all. And Shane just somehow saw something in me, or and was like, "Hey, let's make a movie together." And I don't know, he gambled, and hopefully his gamble paid off.
So it seems that the film, I've seen it twice now because I had to go back and rewatch some of the things so I didn't miss anything. It seems that it's a little bit autobiographical. Is that true? I mean, the character's name is Danny. It feels a bit like a documentary. What do you say to that?
Yeah,
I probably would have changed the name if I could. That's the only if people sometimes ask like, what would you do differently? I actually probably would have changed the name from Danny to a new name just to give him a little sort of separation from the project because I mean, so many people, even friends of ours, thought it was a documentary. For even up until they saw it. I mean, we even had friends that went into it because we didn't even tell them. One or two friends thought they just thought it was a documentary, so we're like, whatever, let's see how they react. But this is more of a question for you.
me.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's kind of what brought so much success to Good Bad Things was Shane and I injecting personal experience and personal like things that we went through into this story. And so they all are semi-autobiographical. They are deeply rooted from some thing that has transpired, whether it was between Shane and I personally or me on my own. And so that also is like what brought the authenticity into the disabled character, which is Danny, and most times in films and TV shows that we watch that portray someone with a disability, it doesn't come off as authentic as I feel like we did because it doesn't, it's not rooted from something that the screenwriter actually experienced. So Shane allowing me to inject my actual disabled experiences so authentically into this film is why I feel like everyone's been really connected and impacted by watching it.
Awesome. Were there scenes for you guys that were especially hard to write?
There's many, many scenes. We're constantly rewriting this thing. Uh, Shane, what was your? I would have to just say the ending, but whatever you.
That was the hardest maybe to come up with. But I think once sort of like we locked in on what it was going to be, like it didn't feel hard anymore because it like by that time it was sort of sometimes it's almost easier to write the more emotional scenes because you don't have to hide things. I think sometimes the lead up and the setup can be a little more difficult because you don't want to, risk that things feel kind of lame or forced or too, obviously just like crafted by a writer. I think the goal is to sort of not be felt. And so, yeah, I think there were certain times for sure that were more difficult, but I think it was sort of just spread out. There's nothing like specifically I'm like, oh, that was like the hard, actually, maybe the opening, the first, yeah, I think the opening,
Oh, for
yeah,
sure,
first like
for
five
sure.
pages.
Yeah, we reshot the opening twice, but yeah, that was definitely and to go back, like I love the beginning of the movie now. Like Shane and I went back and forth on that a lot, and Shane just I think directed us in the perfect way in the beginning with the movie because it allows the audience to just get comfortable with me in the beginning and not just like Shane didn't just like throw everyone in and be like, hey, just deal with it or like get used to him real quickly, like kind of sticker shock everybody. Like he just allowed everybody to take their own pace with it, with the character. And I feel like that's what built the success for the rest of the film. But yes, the beginning of the movie for sure was
Yeah, it
Shane
was.
and I went,
I'm sorry. Go
sorry.
ahead.
No, Shane and I went back and forth in the beginning, like so many times. So
Yeah, I think for me, just because me and Danny grew up together, and so I don't think of him. The first thing I think about Danny is never like, oh, disabled, right? Like that's just an element of his life or an attribute of his existence, and I don't ever think about it, right? For the last 25 years, that's never on my mind, and so that's sort of what I felt like needed to be covered in somewhat of a shortish amount of time because there are a lot of people out there who immediately that's the first thing they would think when they meet Danny. and that's like the way they would kind of like associate, oh, Danny's a disabled guy with blah, whatever. And so I think because of sort of knowing that there's those types of judgments that people will place, for me, it was just like, let's just let the first 15 minutes or so, it's not going to be fast paced. It's not going to be like as gripping as a lot of movies really try to be, especially these days, because everyone's got the shortest attention spans, ever. But yeah, that was what I think, what I felt really strongly about is like, let's just get to know Danny and see him, how his friends see him and see him, in his environment. So by the time we get into maybe what feels like more of the like part of the story, we've sort of made it, we know him, right? We're not having some chance encounter with, the girl who's going to be the love interest in the first 5 pages, or we're not, we were like, this first act is just getting to know Danny. So when we get into the story, it's going to feel a little bit more honest. And so, yeah, that was important for us. I guess that was maybe the hardest part to craft is, trying to keep the energy up and keep people watching while not rushing, because the audience does have to be handheld a little bit, especially when we're doing something that hasn't been done before.
I mean, you talk about the other actors. It really felt like there was an authentic bond between all of you, but I'm sure for some of them, this is probably the first time working with a disabled actor. How do you, I mean, how did you create that authentic bond? I mean, it looks real to me. And then how do you think this experience maybe have affected those other actors?
For me, I think the interesting thing, I didn't really think about this as like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm doing this to, change someone's, approach to something, but just, the life that I'm used to living with Danny involves carrying him around sometimes and changing him and doing some things that I don't think twice about. But for the actors, they both said that watching me and Danny interact from, the early days, from rehearsals, just from hanging out, going to lunch, like they actually said they were studying how me and him interacted, and sort of that was where they really pulled that from. I didn't feel like I had to do a whole lot of coaching. Danny, maybe, yeah, I want to hear what you have to say about it. But yeah, I felt like it was sort of just like, because I was the only one on the set who had spent, I mean, who really, I think, I mean, who else did you really know? Was it just me? Yeah, so I guess it was really just me. And so I think for not just the actors, but cast and crew, I think a lot of their way of interacting with Danny came through just watching me, even though I wasn't thinking that was like, I wasn't like, hey, everybody just watch me for the first 2 weeks and then you'll get it. I think it was, it wasn't on my mind at all. But looking back, that's, what a lot of people have said afterwards, is that was, sort of part of their, I think, education on some of the kind of like intricacies of just having, a disabled friend or somebody who needs a little extra help sometimes.
Yeah, I kind of give it to Shane on this and just being and just choosing two amazing individuals in Brett and Jess to play my co-stars in this movie, and then being like Shane, like I don't really remember a part where they're like, hey, we like other than like, hey, I need to see how you lift him in and out of a car, there really was no like I need to like practice and figure this out. They were just very aware. I feel like we made, Shane allowed a set life that was comfortable to ask questions at all times, and then no questions were off the table or wrong. And yeah, they were just absolute naturals, Justin Brett. It was very like, yeah, everyone's like, oh, you've known Brett your whole entire life. So I was like, no, we met 2 weeks before shooting, and Brett just really fell in love with the script, loved Shane and I and what we had to bring, and just dove head first into that character and set life. And so did absolutely Jess. Like, Jess sitting down with me and doing original rehearsals and was like, she was pulling things that she remembered. I don't know if specifically she had someone that connected in her life that's disabled, but she was like bringing up references like Shane and Hannah Burkow, and seeing them on Instagram and social media and how they interacted. And she brought a lot of that into the movie and her character as well. And, we're lucky to have, real life individuals like them in this world that show proper ways of what true love should be in within the disabled community. So we just did things like that. But yeah, I tell this like they were just for me being a first time actor and being disabled and them not usually have ever worked with somebody with a disability, it just worked. They were just amazing and they helped me feel so comfortable on screen and every take we did, like all the times that we had to like physically do something like carry me in the pool and stuff like that. Just, like yeah, as a disabled person, you could be a little uncomfortable. Like I trust Shane because I've known Shane for 25 years. Like as you build trust with your peoples, and it happened really quickly with Jess and Brett. And I love to tell this story that by the end of the 9 week filming, our last week was it was a scene that it was a day that Brett didn't have to be on set. And so I had my set time. I was staying at a hotel in LA. Shane had to do a lot of prep, and Brett came over to my hotel and got me ready for my last day on set. So like, and we all know what that's like as a disabled person. Like he got me out of bed, he showered me, he got me dressed, he got me all prepped, and he wasn't even supposed to be on set that day. So that was like the evolution of what I feel like they took away at the end of this thing, and yeah, they crushed it. So
That's awesome. I mean, I feel like you guys could have easily gotten overly sentimental and gone for easy tears. How did you avoid that? Because you could have gone either way, really. But it didn't feel that way at all. So how did you avoid going for the easy tears? I call them.
I think it wasn't like as so much as, I mean, I guess the simple answer is we probably, as we were coming up with the story, just didn't gravitate towards that because we weren't necessarily like, oh, this is like some like, like kind of way of pulling emotion out of people versus telling a story that wasn't really focused on that. And so yeah, I think just going into it, we both had the idea that we were going to show what Danny's real life is. And there's definitely tears, but there's also a whole lot of fun and happiness and wild times and good times and friendship. And that's been the majority of our friendship and our lifetime together. So the idea of the easy tears isn't something we really just have inside of us, I guess. Go ahead.
me, yeah, I think we like one of the original ideas was a lot more sob heavy, like heartstrings really trying to pull, and I love the direction Shane pushed us to go into this film. There is, a singular scene that makes you really go for the heartstrings, but we just wanted everyone to connect in their own way to scenes in the movie that they felt were emotional or impactful or hit home, really close to home. And it's really cool to talk to people after watching the movie and ask them what was their favorite scene? What do they feel really connected to? And all their answers are they vary. They're all different. Everyone finds a moment or a line or a shot in this movie that they're just like, oh my gosh, that's something I feel very deeply, and that's going to sit with me for a very long time. And I think that's the power of the film is it's not just even just my character, it's all of it. So yeah.
Um, I feel leading up to this, and I wasn't familiar um, with the fact that disabled actors have complained, for decades about able-bodied actors playing disabled characters, right? But I feel like you broke this barrier. So, and do you feel it's already had an impact in terms of opening people's eyes to this? I don't know what you would call it.
I
Keeping
think
disabled actors down. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when we went into it, we didn't really know to the extent that this has never happened before. Because that wasn't really our mindset. We weren't like, oh, let's change the world. We were just like, oh, this is an interesting story that we just haven't seen before personally. And so, we didn't really know the lack of content really out there for accurate representation in the disabled community, even though, across Hollywood and sort of the world, accurate representation is becoming very important in the focus. And it sort of just feels like this was something that we're learning along the way that feels like it's really filling a void that hopefully can create some meaningful change. And so to answer the question, um, over time, we felt the support grow. I think that at this stage, we know we have something that could be meaningful to a lot of people. And so we're just at the stage where we can hopefully be able to push this message out to the, kind of the wider audiences that are out there. But yeah, we're sort of at that place now where we're like, okay, we feel like we've gotten the necessary validation to be comfortable trying to put this film out in a big way. And so now, yeah, we're just kind of finalizing like how that's going to look. But yeah, well, hopefully a lot of people get a chance to see it, sort of out of our control, but we're doing what we can.
Yeah, Shane answered that perfectly. It's I we hadn't I wasn't we weren't really thinking about this going into making this movie. I wasn't even thinking about this even going into festivals and all that sorts. And it was really the biggest takeaway I have from this all is, being in Slam Dance Unstoppable, which mainly focuses on inclusion and disabled making films. And then going into Real Abilities New York, which is specifically for disabled films. And seeing that there was no lack of creativity, no lack of talent in front of the camera and behind the camera. And as like someone who is disabled and loves film and loves TV shows and haven't seen a lot of that is just shocking to me. And I feel like I know Shane and I did a lot in the production of making this and showing me acting in a movie, but I feel like the real work that we've done post that and after the festivals and doing the AMC theatrical, doing the virtual screening, talking to all of the different studios and now streamers and stuff like that, and making them see all the disabled creativity that's out there and the talent that's out there, and trying to make space and room for that in a mass way. Because as we like you brought this up, Brad, that like there's been so many times that non-disabled people have played disabled roles. And if you think about it, all those movies are quite successful, and those actors usually get like some type of acclaim for their performance. And that's because this world they love and they seek disabled stories. They're very powerful. And so, when that is going to becomes fully authentic and then becomes available on streamers and studios and theaters for the masses, that's when we're really going to see the change really be made. And I think that's what we did the most. It's not so much in the film, but what we've done with the film once it got the representation it needed. And hopefully we have some news, soon. And come 2025, there'll be a lot more good bad things out there. Hi, Joe.
Well, I'm just going to follow that with a question that popped up in the. Oh, okay. So Shane answered the question for Helen. There are people that want to see it that kind of missed that initial opportunity. I saw it at AMC and then got to see it in streaming as well. So you'll be announcing it in early 2025 is what Shane says. Okay, I guess we'll just have to wait. So there's no way right now that we can go back and see it. Okay. Okay, we'll wait
Yeah,
patiently.
we'll be doing a big push, and honestly, like Shane and I are just very grateful for the whole disabled community, specifically the FSHD Society, for just championing us this whole time. Even like when we were in such a rough cut, we didn't even know what festivals we want to submit to. Beth and everybody over at FSHD Society has been a fan of the movie and supported us through all that. So it's not over with. Our biggest splash is to come in 2025. And so when it's easily accessible and available for everybody, we will make the announcement everywhere. yeah, should be awesome.
Awesome. Shane, is this the biggest movie you've done?
You made it.
Only movie.
Oh, okay. I mean, first time actor, first time producer. It's like, woohoo. Jeez.
Yeah,
Well, you're going to have big shoes to fill going forward from here.
I know that.
Um,
Uh,
Danny, I have to ask the burning question. Um, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to, but you have FSHD. We're at the FSHD Society, the community watching today, are affected by the disease, whether they have it or someone they love does. But the film doesn't mention this specifically. Why is that?
The specific muscular dystrophy, you're asking?
Yeah, and I don't even think muscular dystrophy itself was mentioned, right?
No, I have a generalization of a way of being with disability. I don't, the thing that makes us very unique, but also kind of somewhat affects, I think, progress with being disabled is that there's so many different types and they're so unique. And I didn't really want to go into this character with being like, hey, he was diagnosed and it's a physical disability and it's a muscular dystrophy diagnosis and specifically it's an FSHD diagnosis. It just specifies it too much that rules out everyone else's connection. And at the end of the day, we're all disabled. At the end of the day, if we are fortunate to live long enough, we will all become disabled, and to instead of be scared about that or make it disempowering, I wanted the story to empower it and begin and the fact that we do have a disability and specifically me with FSHD doesn't make me lesser or not perfect of a human being. And honestly, it's something that any negativity that's given to it is caused by me personally. And that's like feel like the biggest takeaway that other disabled people have with this movie is that Danny, the character, creates the struggles and the challenges himself more than society and what is around him causes him. And so if as a disabled community, we're able to write our own stories about who we are as being disabled, it honestly becomes a superpower and we can become unleashed and do whatever we want to do and live powerful, perfect, unstoppable lives. And so that's kind of why I chose to do it the way we did it within the film. Because yeah, I've been entrenched in the disabled community for so long, and I don't look at anybody with a different muscular dystrophy or, differently limbed or, hearing impaired or blind or like we're all the same, we're all part of this community. And when we start segregating them, we lose the power as a group. And so I wanted that to be blanketed, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, and then we
yeah.
have and
And
our EP on this movie has got muscular dystrophy, not the same as mine. Steve Way, our co-executive producer, Shane Burkow, has a muscular dystrophy, not FSHD, but we're all the same, and I just like and we have multiple people involved in this movie that also have disabilities, so like I didn't want to make it just one.
and also just a side note on that. I've known Danny for 25 years. I've never asked him some of the questions that people had, because people watch rough cuts of films, like part of the process is different people weigh in and different people get a chance to see, and you'll get everyone's feedback. And so, yeah, some people were actually, that was a question that came up a few times, not pertaining to, specifically explaining what Danny's diagnosis is, but explaining why Danny doesn't necessarily smile a lot, right? And that's something that when I heard people say that, I'm like, well, I've never in my life for 25 years had someone ask me why Danny doesn't smile a lot. That's never been, I've never thought about it. I've never considered it. Now I understand, but it never even crossed my mind. And so, to me, the reality, it's not like I don't care. It's just like, Danny's Danny, and that's that. I'm never like, oh, like, hey, actually, why aren't you smiling a little bit more? Right? Like there was, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like funny the way that people will try to overanalyze something that doesn't really have to be talked about sometimes. If this was a documentary and that was the point of it, yeah, like we'd talk about it, I'm sure, because that would be the focus. But this was a focus about, a man's life and his friendships and falling in love, and really didn't have a whole lot to do with, focusing on something that he's lived with and we've just known about, and it kind of, I don't want to say ignored, but just don't really think about as an attribute of Danny's character, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. And kudos. That's a very powerful response, Danny and Shane. Thank you. Very powerful. I have only one more question, but I want to see if there's any questions from folks that are watching today. If anyone out there has questions for Danny or Shane, please go ahead and put it in the Q&A section of the Zoom thing. It's down at the bottom, a little button called Q&A. Put your questions there. I have a fun question. Okay, the song Ruby, that was so fun. It's such a good song, and you guys wrote that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like there was like a section in the story basically where they were supposed to just be talking about like ideas for Ruby, and Brett was playing on the piano, just joking around while we were changing lights around before the scene was gonna shoot. And then like people were just sitting there laughing, and I was next to Danny, and Danny's like, dude, let's do it on the piano. I'm like, should we do it on the piano? It's like, yeah, come on. And then so we went to the piano, and then Brett just started kind of riffing, and Danny and Brett ended up just sort of singing, like taking the sort of lyrics and spinning them into this song, and then Brett started just being hilarious, making stuff up. And so we spent like a long time just shooting that over and over. And every time they would sing something just a little different or like whatever. Thankfully we got one, because I don't know if the other the other 15 tries would have actually worked the way we were shooting it, because it was always just one takes. So we never had other like things to cut away from, but they nailed it. And then yeah, we took it from there.
Such a great song. So my next question is, when you start your band, what's the band name going to be?
Danny, you take that one.
I don't even know. I
That's
can't think
awesome.
so. Yeah, that's a Brett question.
Helen asks a question. I know Helen lives up in the British Columbia near Vancouver. So she's hoping that you guys will apply for the BC Film Festival, the Victoria Film Festival that's happening, and it happens every February. So I think 2025 is already out and done, but she's hoping you guys will apply for the 2026 Victoria Film Festival in BC. So put that on your little list of film festivals to apply.
I'm not sure if we'll actually be able to, because we're going to be releasing the film like on VOD
Uh,
at that time. But thank you for mentioning it. We can look into it. But yeah, we're about to have an announcement about our distributor, and then at that point they're going to be, I think, handling all of that stuff. But we can look into it for sure. And once we do, we'll come find you.
Yeah,
okay,
and
good.
we'll see, because there's been a lot of outreach since the virtual and the theatrical, and there might be ways that we do special screenings, to build awareness. It's not gonna
Or
be
maybe just in Canada. Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's not gonna be so much like hey, let's go, like it's a monetary type of like really theatrical thing. It's gonna be more a focused awareness based screening. So we're gonna make it more an event based. I don't know if that's gonna happen within other film festivals on their own, with FSHD, with other organizations, whether we can do that kind of stuff, but we're working on some concepts like that, depending on how things go with the distributor. So yeah, we're excited because
Yeah, we'll look into that though if we're allowed to. We just don't know what's going on anymore. We're sort of out of our depth, if that makes sense.
yeah.
And we just kind of go with the flow.
Um, Oh, June has a question. Oh, there's June. She's traveling. And so thank you for
Yeah.
joining us from the airport, June. We appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry I was late. I'm glad you were able to log in. I panicked when I saw your text message saying it.
I had a hard time
But
figuring it out, but I got in eventually.
yeah,
Um, but,
Phoenix
but you
Airport.
want to ask your question?
Yeah, sure. No, I was wondering whether by making this film that you connected with other disabled actors and directors and people in the entertainment industry to maybe, join forces to help, raise awareness and advocate within the industry for
Uh,
inclusion and
oh yeah, absolutely. That's been like the coolest thing out of this, like the connections and relationships I built with starting at Unstoppable and at Slam Dance in January, all up until now. The Easter Seal Disability Film Challenge community is amazing. All the films that were a part of us on the festival run. There's like I was telling Beth earlier, there's just endless amounts of talent in front of the camera, behind the camera, that are part of this disabled community. And yeah, I can't wait to see them flourish and make more content and make more films and TV shows. I myself am coming up with some ideas on how I can work with more of them and create more stuff now that I kind of know what I'm doing. Some I have still no idea what I'm doing in this industry. I think I'll have Shane on my side to help me and guide me. But yeah, I do have some plans. I'm just very fortunate. There's just so many, and it's so thankfully for social media, like there's just yeah, endless.
that's cool. Actually, you mentioned, you went into this, both of this your first time. I mean, what was kind of the biggest lessons that you learned, you had to learn quickly? And did anything shock you or surprise you in the process?
I don't know if I properly can answer that question without getting canceled. I'm just kidding. Um, no, this just Hollywood for a reason. And they're asking questions, they're opening their ways of doing things to include and elevate more of our community, but it's still got a ways to go. There's still things that need to be done. And yeah, filmmaking is really hard to do because it's Hollywood, like it's the craziest thing I've ever been a part of in my life, and I'm obsessed with it and I want more of it. And to go through the wildness that we just went through and want to do it all over again just shows you how special the art is that you get to do. But yeah, like I think that's my biggest challenge and takeaway with this whole thing. It was like when we realized we had something to keep it going, it just takes a lot. A lot.
Hmm.
And it's and partnerships are very key, working with like and having someone that you share the vision with so deeply with, and like Shane and I do, and that we don't step on each other's creative toes throughout the process and what our goals are and what we want to do. It's just constant support and idea bouncing and trust to get it to where it goes because they call it movie magic for a reason. It's like every single part of it has to be magic for it to end like the way it did. And yeah, I think that was my biggest learning stuff.
Yeah.
How are you, Shane?
About you, Shane? Yeah.
You know what? I know everything Danny just said, but I can't remember what the question was.
Oh, just what were the big lessons you learned, and kind of dove into this whole process, and did anything shock or surprise you?
Okay, that's right. Um, I don't know if there was a lot of shock versus a lot of just waiting. Maybe that was one of the things is everything just takes a long time and it's easy
Patient.
to lose lose excitement. And so it's sort of like, because we shot this film, it's been 2.5 years since we actually shot it. And your whole life can change in that time. And so it's sort of, I think it's sort of like a battle of attrition of choosing to keep pushing and looking for the wins and not getting too, disheartened, because you're going to get more no's, significantly more no's than yeses along the way. And so I think it's just like maybe the perseverance needed to push something like this over the edge was probably the biggest lesson. I don't think there was I wouldn't say that was surprising. I think you go into it just expecting it's gonna be really hard. And it's one of those things, you only do it once, right? Movies are, it's like, I could never do this again this way. But I think it's like each time probably you make a film, you're gonna have to go through this. It's a different project with different types of roadblocks. But yeah, I think that was just kind of the lesson, and not giving up a little bit, and believing, I think, in what we did enough to keep pushing, because there were so many chances we could have sort of just pulled the plug or stopped what we've been doing. We easily could have skipped the going into AMC theaters and just gone to VOD, I guess a whole year sooner, because we had those opportunities presented to us after our festival, but we just knew it wasn't, the right type of deal at the time. So yeah, the main thing is just pushing.
Great. Well, I just love the film, and even more than I thought I would. I mean, just
Mhm.
be honest, because you don't know what to expect when you go in. I felt that so much of it was just pitch perfect in terms of its authenticity, and at the scenes there were surprising things. And were there scenes where you kind of were on the edge, like, should we do this or should we do that? Where you felt like, is this going to, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Do you have like I mean, there are probably a zillion decisions.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that could mean a couple, like, I guess, different things. But like when we were writing it, there was always that back and forth. By the time it was time to shoot, there usually wasn't a whole lot of wiggle room. We could make adjustments, but at that point, things are pretty locked in. But then after, when you're in the editing room, there you can edit them a lot of different ways. And so each stage of the process, there was that. And we cut probably 30 minutes out of the movie, believe it or not. And then so that's full scenes or sequences that will never be seen, that we made, that were some of them good, some of them not so good, but there was a lot of that, especially in the post-production process. Yeah.
Was there anything where when you were filming, you were going like, it's not quite working, or needs some, that?
Oh yeah, that's the whole time is always that, right? And so I think, those are I think the adjustments that we made, every day. There's always something that's not working, or has to be tweaked, or lines that need to be changed, or moments that we thought were going to be good that weren't. Yeah, so that's sort of that was definitely, I don't know if that's always the process. I think with the way we put this together quickly and had a small crew, and we had a lot of flexibility because we didn't have a lot of people on the project, but we also had less time to prepare and less sort of easy solutions when we did make changes. So yeah, but every day was a battle like that.
Yeah.
There was never a day where things were like, oh, this was just perfect. That's, I think, the fun of it.
It's
I'd be
constant.
very bored if that was not the case. I wouldn't have had fun.
No, Shane kept it all. He was the glue in making sure that the chaos wasn't chaos. It was like beautiful chaos, and that's just the best part about being on set. It's just you never know, what's gonna happen, and there's just so many pieces and people that have to come into play for you to get that perfect take. And then even rolling it into post, like Shane was saying. So yeah, lots, lots of that.
I'm curious.
Any plans for a sequel?
I don't know. I mean, we've joked around about some ideas.
I mean, you kind of left it where there could be one.
That's
Very
true.
true.
Oh,
Yeah.
over time, we'll see what happens. I don't think you really get sequels made unless you get the audience. So first thing we need to do is get the film out there.
Let's blow this thing up in 2025, and with all the momentum, we will get financing for a sequel because the demand is there. Done.
I was wondering with the actors, I'm sure for some of the, maybe many of the actors in the film, that working with a disabled writer and actor was a new experience for them. How did it affect them, or how did they express that to you?
Um, Honestly, it was very authentic and casual. Like, as a disabled person, for many, many years, I've learned that communication is key, and not hiding things. So anything that I knew going into a scene was needed or any accommodations, not with my on camera person was, but like behind the camera with Shane, our director of photography, and some producers, like anything I needed, or felt like was something that was need to be had, like you just ask and you just tell, like, and having a very open, receptive crew and cast that's willing to listen to me and implement those accommodations, um, or how you make authentic disabled films and have it be result into what good bad things was. It was that was again when we're talking about movie magic, like on camera chemistry, awesome. But that happened because off camera, I had a director, a DP, and producers that were allowing me to be comfortable, to be in the mindset to deliver that scene in the way I delivered it. And that's all the things that need to happen. So that was really special and cool. And I feel like that's just a lesson we learn as disabled people. It's just we need to communicate and express. There's no shame in needing help. There's no shame in asking questions or just saying that things aren't the way that they should be. Ask, tell, and that's the power of that. So
Excellent.
Thank you.
Do we have any open questions? I don't think we have any other questions from our folks. I did get a message from a local Colorado person that's connecting me with a local filmmaker here that wants to hopefully do a whole series of festival that highlights disability. So I think that would be an interesting
yeah,
approach.
go check out, like, if you're looking for more stuff right now. Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge makes awesome shorts, and anyone can submit and make their own films for that. Nick Novicki has done a fantastic job over there. And then you got Unstoppable Slam Dance, which is moving to LA in January or early February this year. And then also, like, Real Abilities does multiple city tours with amazing disabled films. So if you are looking for more of that you don't see on the streamers, go check those out and support those filmmakers and hit them up on Instagram and things like that and tell them how a great job they do, because that's been like so awesome, is with the theatrical and the virtual, just like the DMs and the outreach that I'm getting, just being like, I loved it, thank you, this is my favorite scene, can you talk at my university, can you give me notes on my documentary? Like, we're all in this together. So yeah, just go support our community.
Great. Awesome. Any other questions? June, do you have anything else for these guys?
Well, I do, but
we're all fangirling right now.
I wanted to
well,
out all day pants, but that's off topic.
See, June's known me for a very, very long time when I had my old career, which was fashion. So she's highlighted me there, and now she gets to see me as the actor. So it's cool.
I just have to say, because Danny had a company that made the most comfortable men's jeans in the universe. They're my husband's favorite pants. I gave them to my brothers-in-law. Everybody's like, they're wearing out. Where can I get more? And I'm like, I I think Danny's moved on.
Yeah, he got busy and wanted to go for Hollywood. So, yeah,
Maybe we can
unfortunately,
get them on eBay. What's the name, the brand name?
All
it's
day,
all day.
ALDAY.
It doesn't exist anymore, but if you do like a version of that, go check out Ezekiel, Ezekiel. They have
Oh,
there's a now denim pants that I know Shane wears all the time, and it's very, very comfortable. And yeah, go check out that one because that's a very close
thank you.
version of the all day.
Thank you for letting me know so I know what to get everybody for the holidays this year.
There you go. Yeah, thank you.
Well, great. Well, I guess we'll wrap up. I thank you guys both so much, Dan and Shane, for joining us today. And everyone, as Shane said, they're going to be announcing ways to see the movie soon. It will likely be in early 2025. But for updates, please follow them on Instagram at Good Bad Things Film, all one word, for all the updates that are coming out. And when it does, we encourage you to see this movie, share it with family and friends. It's really groundbreaking. Yeah, that's all I can say. And then just to wrap it up, I'll let everyone know our next FSHD University webinar is Thursday, the 21st of November. Our guest speaker is going to be Dr. Kate Eichinger from the University of Rochester. She's going to discuss what we've learned today from one of the largest natural history studies of FSHD that's been completed to date. It's called Resolve FSHD. So she'll be on to talk about that. And just visit our events calendar on the website to see all of the upcoming chapter, wellness, educational events, awesome webinars like this one. And we thank you all for joining us today. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys. We'll see you on the backside.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, bye.
Take care, you guys.
Bye.